big city. One of the first things we'd probably see if we were to travel through the middle Atlantic states. We'd see many of the largest cities in the United States. New York, the largest city in the Western Hemisphere. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, one of the historic centers of this eastern region. Newark, New Jersey, a big metropolis that resembles New York City. Wilmington, the big industrial city of Delaware. Baltimore, metropolis of 1 million people and the chief city of Maryland. Washington, D.C., capital city of the nation and center of a great metropolitan area. Charleston, West Virginia, capital of the state with many big factories. Yes, we'd see cities, many cities. These cities, with their industries and millions of people, are part of the Middle Atlantic states. These 6 states form a middle region between New England and the southern states, and they have important outlets on the Atlantic. The region is made up of New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and West Virginia. Let's look at some of the many cities in the region. New York, Baltimore, and Philadelphia are important Atlantic ports. Philadelphia is a deep water port on Delaware Bay. It is a shipping center today, as it was in colonial times. Much early American history centers about Philadelphia. Here in Independence Hall in 1776, the Declaration of Independence was adopted. Today, the city is noted for its many industries. How did such industrial centers develop? Let's look at Philadelphia and other cities near it. Do you notice any pattern in this group? The cities follow a line which is called the fall line. Along the fall line, the highland drops abruptly to the lower coastal plain. Rivers tumble down when they reach the fall line, making waterfalls. A century or more ago, such falls were a source of water power for running mills. The crude mills of colonial times were the beginnings of industrial centers that grew up on the fall line. Also, because of the fall line, boats may go up the rivers only as far as the falls, or the head of navigation. At the head of navigation, boats must be unloaded. This transfer of goods was another reason for the early growth of cities that we call the fall line cities. One city in this group, Washington, D.C., is not an industrial city, but is famous as the capital of our nation. Washington occupies a beautiful site in the District of Columbia, a small area that is not part of any state. And so the fall line cities are one group of the many cities we'll find in the Middle Atlantic states. North of the fall line group, we'll find another area with many cities. Here is a cluster reaching from New York to Buffalo. Why do you suppose so many cities grew along this line? Let's remember this. New York is the only state that touches both the Great Lakes and the Atlantic. This lowland, lying along the Hudson and Mohawk rivers, is a natural route between the Great Lakes and the Atlantic. The digging of the Erie Canal, more than 100 years ago, completed the Hudson-Mohawk waterway. For more than a century, barges have been carrying goods through the Erie Canal between the ports of New York and Buffalo. People, too, moved westward along this same route more than a century ago to settle the upper Mississippi Valley. In time, this natural gateway became the route of a transportation network. Transportation by highway, by rail, and by water. We might say that transportation networks is another idea that will help us understand this region. Two important terminals for goods are New York and Buffalo, at each end of a network of waterways, railroads, and highways. Buffalo has been called a funnel city because products are funneled through it. Products such as wheat, brought by ship from Canada, or automobiles that come from Detroit, Michigan. Many such products go from Buffalo to New York. New York is one of the greatest railway centers in the world. It is a world center of air traffic, and it is one of the leading seaports of the world. Transportation and trade have helped to give New York the largest city population in the Western Hemisphere. New York is our greatest theater center, as well as a leading source of our television programs. In manufacturing, New York is known as the center of the clothing industry. In a garment factory such as this, skilled workmen may have made the clothes you are wearing. In addition to manufacturing garments, New York is also known as a fashion center. New York is a publishing center, too. The books you use in class may have been printed in New York. Many industries. Another idea we can find in New York, in the other cities of the Hudson-Mohawk Group, and in the Fall Line cities. One of the newest industrial areas is on Chesapeake Bay near Baltimore. Iron ore for the steel plants in this bay region comes by way of the Atlantic from Newfoundland, Cuba, and Venezuela. This ship is unloading chrome ore from Sweden, used in making chrome steel. The coal used in eastern steel plants is shipped by rail. Most of the coal comes from West Virginia and Pennsylvania, where we'll find mining towns like this one. Important in the mining and steel industries is Pittsburgh, the center of another great industrial area. Pittsburgh is one of the world's great industrial cities. It is known as the Steel City because so much steel is manufactured here. The making of glass and glass products is another industry of the Pittsburgh area, one of many industries in the Middle Atlantic states. Many industries require the work of many people. And this is one more idea we might remember. Dense population. The Middle Atlantic states have some of the most populated areas in the world. 3/4 of all the people in these states live in big cities, in suburban areas close to the cities, and in smaller towns. What about the others? Many of them live on small truck farms such as this, where they grow many kinds of vegetables. This is part of the food supply for the big population of this region. Apples and many other kinds of fruits are also grown in the Middle Atlantic states. Ducks raised on Long Island furnish more food for the big cities. While some farmers raise only ducks, others specialize in raising chickens. Still other farmers specialize in dairying. Fine herds of dairy cattle produce milk. Milk and milk products, too, are food for the big cities. And here, related to food products, is transportation. In the same way, other ideas about this region are related to one another. Do you remember some of these ideas? We found that the region is one of many cities. Do you remember some of the patterns in which the cities are grouped? Could you tell something about the cities in this region? Could you tell something about the transportation networks that tie many cities together? Do you remember what some of the many industries are and where the industrial areas are found? Could you find out more about the dense population? Perhaps you can discover other key ideas that will help you understand the geography of the Middle Atlantic states.